Hey guys, Huzz here, bringing you another video. This time an episode of League Discussion, the series where I talk about things in League of Legends, maybe make it a little bit clearer, and if it's something that, is apparent in the current scene. Now this episode is going to be talking about Flavour of the Month champions, why do they exist? Some people are a bit confused of how something becomes Flavour of the Month, so we're just going to go into it nice and easy. Now one thing before we get into it I want to say is I did mention in a video that I'll be doing 4 videos a week and they'll be of these certain type. These certain types are interchangeable, so I know League Discussion wasn't mentioned in that video, but I will still be continuing the video. It just means I may not do a guide video that week, or may not do a tip video if I do, a League Discussion or a replay analysis. That's just how it's going to work. But anyway, let's get into Flavour of the Month. So Flavour of the Month has been around in League of Legends for a long time. It's become a lot more popular now because obviously there's streamers who are streaming for like 40,000 people, so people can kind of access Flavour of the Month champions a lot easier. So we're just going to go down a list. I have made a little list just to make sure I've covered all the points. And we're just going to go through it. So the first one is a visual update or a skin can make something Flavour of the Month. Now this may be a bit confusing, like how does that happen? The biggest one I can think of right now is Twitch. Twitch received basically no buff when he had the visual update. He was pretty much the same character, just with a few different, visual aspects different. But that kind of made people play him. They were like, oh, this new Twitch is really cool. Let's, decide how he looks and to see how he plays. Oh, Twitch is actually still really good. Nothing has changed to that champion. Just people have actually realised, oh, I like Twitch, I'll play Twitch. And that's as simple as it is. It is literally the visual update made people play it, and making people play it make them realise that this champion is still quite strong. So that's, number one. And that's the same with skins. A certain skin can make people play it. Obviously that's not for every case, because if we go into the legendaries, Ezreal, he was quite strong when Pulsefire came out, but he's not really played anymore. The Udyr skin, he was played for a time, but again not really strong anymore. You can get kited too easy. The skin isn't everything, it just makes people play it, and if people play it, it may actually make them realise, oh, this is actually still quite good. So that's basically reason one. Now, reason 2 is items, a rather broad topic that basically can be one of two things. An item can be either a nerf or a buff. So certain champions obviously synergize with items amazingly well. You think of Ravenous Hydra for many of the top laners. That synergizes awesome with a lot of them. Brutalizer again, if there was a buff to Brutalizer, that would probably be a big impact of what champions are played again, even though it's quite a strong item. So the examples I can give is Renekton. Renekton has always been strong in the top lane, but honestly he hasn't been like a monster apart from the past, I'd say 6 odd months that everybody's like, oh god, Renekton top. So all I'll say is Renekton got stronger when they nerfed Doran's shield. Basically what Doran's shield is a good defense item against an early aggressive top laner. So, like Renekton, you build a Doran shield pretty much on every matchup, maybe even cloth armor nowadays because of the nerf. But because Doran shield got nerfed, it gave Renekton an indirect buff. Having that item a little bit less than what it was makes Renekton, in theory, better early on. And that can happen quite a bit. That does happen quite a bit. Just, indirect buffs to champions because other items get nerfed. So that is a reason, and Sunfire and Spirit Visage both got nerfed recently. That kind of hurt Mundo a little bit. So there are, different aspects what can hurt other people out there. Now the next thing on the list is streamers and pro popularity. So that does include if something's played in LCS or something. So obviously the big difference between now and let's say early season 1 in the game is basically you have streams now that, say, Odd1, he streams, he can have 40,000 viewers. Season 1, that never happened. Season 1, they would be lucky if they had a couple of thousand, if that. That's what it was like. And because so many people are watching streams that, high-level streams, they're watching Diamond 1s, etc., they're seeing what is played all the time. They're like, right, that's being played every single game. I'm going to try that out. It's doing quite well. And that's a ripple effect. If someone plays that in solo queue, then someone else is going to see in their game, oh, that's actually pretty strong. I'll try that. It's a massive ripple effect, like a wave. Which I will probably say, obviously, and this is one of the main reasons, the peak of like Flavor of the Month is usually High Diamond 1 or Challenger. They kind of know what's very strong, then it ripples down to Lower Diamond, then ripples down to Platinum, and it is actually kind of that effect. You'll always kind of find that Bronze people are kind of always just a little bit behind of what Flavor of the Month is, and they'll be playing like champions that used to be Flavor of the Month because they're not keeping up to date. And that's one thing I say, if you do want to kind of do well, obviously play the champions you want, but Flavor of the Month champions are Flavor of the Month for a reason, and that reason is because they are strong. So just keep that in mind, you know, keep up to date, as it is a kind of a funny thing just to kind of say, and it's actually true, you know, the lower elo you go, the longer the Flavor of the Month kind of disappears. So the next thing I want to say is just, you know, the basic one, the buff. If a champion literally just gets buffed, then it will become more popular. That's just obvious. So there are some champions out there that have been, you know, changed a little bit. You know, there has been updates, you know, not just visual reworks. They've literally been changed and they become more popular. But, you know, just general buffs, like little quality of life changes. Now, the footage in the background, obviously, right now, is me playing Rengar. I've decided to pick him up again because of what I've seen from a streamer. So that is going to my point. I have literally gone, wow, that is strong. That is really, really strong. You know, there was a Reddit video the other day, and I love Rengar. Rengar is one of my favourite champions. He always has been. And I think, you know, and I think I'll just say here, I'm actually getting new artwork done for the channel based on Rengar. Rengar literally is one of my favourite champions in the game. So I'll be picking him back up, and he kind of got updated, and it was kind of a buff and a nerf. Now, Rengar, item-wise, when Spirit Visage and Sunfire Cape were really strong, Rengar was in his element as tank. You know, that's kind of what everybody did on him. It was like, why do I need to go DPS in lane if I just can go tank and not die and then go assassin later on? Well, nowadays, that doesn't really work as well. I'd say assassin is the optimal way because of how they changed him. And that's just listening to the rework. That is literally just going, that's how you play him now, I'll play him that way too. So that, again, is a buff kind of to Rengar, as I'd say it's a buff to Rengar's assassin state, because literally you can one-shot anybody in the game as long as you do well. Obviously, there are certain people that he just can't one-shot. I'd say Nasus is one of them that he's a bit of a trouble for, but I'd say the visual update was a buff to Rengar assassin mode, and obviously items kind of made a difference to that as well. If Spirit Visage and Sunfire were still as strong as they were, then we may see tank Rengar still. I'm not really sure. So the last 2 points are kind of buffs and nerfs to other champions. So the reason for this is, say a different champion gets a buff. That champion is going to be good against certain champions, and that may force other champions not to be played. So in theory, let's just say the rise of Trundle. A lot of people were like, why is Trundle played all of a sudden? Trundle didn't get really a buff. He was just suddenly picked up. The reason why Trundle was picked up is because the buffs to the other champions. So Shyvana got a buff, or Shyvana got popular, Renekton got popular. You know, certain champions just became popular, and that was the rise of Trundle. That's how it happened, and that happens quite a lot in League of Legends, and it's just something that, you know, everybody kind of does. In that, if a champion gets strong, you play the counter. Now, as I've always said, you know, counters aren't everything, but they do help. If you can play the champion that counters it to a high level, you may as well play the counter. So yeah, Trundle is a big example of that, and I'd say he's the biggest example. Other champions, you know, rise in popularity when Renekton did that, just outscale him. Obviously now we've got Jax, that is pretty much banned in every single game because, let's be honest, Jax kind of just wins every matchup from in late game. Nothing really can kill him. So there are just certain champions that are either banned or picked, like just to if they become Flavor of the Month or if they're just simply too strong. So yeah, that's just another thing. And then the final thing is nerfs to other champions. So things can become Flavor of the Month because of a nerf to another champion. If, like, again, let's just think of, because obviously I'm going quite a lot off top lane here, because obviously I'm a top laner now, and that's kind of what my mindset goes to. But if we go off, like, if Renekton got completely nerfed right now, you'd see a hell of a lot more late game top laners right now, because obviously Renekton can pretty much beat everything, I'd say, in top lane fairly easily. You know, Jax is very popular, but the only real matchup that Jax has an issue with is the Renekton. So if Renekton was nerfed out of, like, he's not going to be played anymore, then definitely Jax would become even more popular. You'd probably see AD Nidalee become more of a thing, because like AD Nid is good. She is like pretty good against Renekton, but Renekton can still do well against her. And you just see like an influx of just late game top laners come back into the game. Now the meta in top lane is kind of, what I can tell, shifting at the moment. You know, you still got the tanky guys up there, but it is actually becoming a little bit more damage dealing. Obviously with myself, I've picked up Aatrox quite heavily. I'm going to be picking up Rengar again. So the meta is kind of shifting into a more damagey roll up top lane, but still kind of trying to keep a little bit tanky. And that is because of the champions that are becoming Flavour of the Month. That is literally it. You know, Aatrox is being played a little bit more. Rengar's going to be played a little bit more. And stuff like that. You know, I've used to see like a Kali being picked up again by certain people. So that is the video. I thought I'd just quickly explain, you know, why some champions become Flavour of the Month. It's just, it's a pretty easy process. It's literally not just because they got a change. It could be a number of things that we went over. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it made it a little bit clearer what Flavour of the Month is. And that's it. So hopefully you guys, as I said, enjoy this, and I'll see you guys next time.